welcome to another episode of Memorable Moments in Topeka History. I'm your host, Harold Gingrich. In the early 1900s, mint was a major cash crop for farmers in the Topeka area. While we still have a few mint stills around the area, corn and soybeans have become today's modern cash crop. And yet, because of a nearly disastrous mistake, Topeka will be forever linked with one of the most popular and the largest selling brands of chewing gum in the world. Before I tell you the story, let's go back to the days of black and white television and look at this vintage commercial. You're going to enjoy it.
When you're looking for a treat to freshen taste and keep breath sweet, get double smoothness, flavor too. Get the gum that's double good to chew.
Double your pleasure, double your fun with double good, double mint gum.
At the age of 29, William Wrigley Jr. came to Chicago from Philadelphia. It was the spring of 1891. He had $32 in his pocket and a wealth of enthusiasm and energy. He also possessed a great talent as a salesman. Since his father had manufactured soap in Philadelphia, it was only natural that young William would open his own Chicago-based company promoting Wrigley's Scouring Soap. And as an incentive to his customers and the merchants, Wrigley offered premiums. He knew that customers and store owners would be more likely to carry his soap if they got something for nothing. One of those premiums he gave away was baking powder. Well, you can imagine it wasn't long before the baking powder proved to be more popular than the soap. Like any good businessman, Wrigley switched to selling baking powder. But now he needs to come up with a new incentive, a new premium. Well, one day in 1892, Wrigley hit upon the idea of giving away 2 packages of chewing gum with every can of baking powder. The promotion was a huge success. Once again, the premium, the chewing gum, became more popular than the product he was selling. So it was in 1893 that Wrigley introduced the world to Wrigley's Juicy Fruit Gum, which was followed a few months later by Wrigley's Spearmint. William Wrigley was really a pioneer when it came to using promotional items to entice people to buy his products. Wrigley's gum quickly became a household word, and people couldn't get enough of it. And that's where Topeka comes into the picture. The late Dan A. Miller, who most people in this area referred to as Atlee's Dan, was an Amish bishop. He was a good friend, and he had grown up on a mint farm. Well, Dan told me the story of how a mistake nearly cost Tobias Valentine Yoder the family farm. But it was that nearly disastrous mistake that led to the creation of Wrigley's Double Mint Gum. I've actually heard this story from a number of sources, so I'm very confident that what I'm about to tell you actually took place. Well, Wrigley was really particular, and he would drive the fields looking for the cleanest mint fields because he wanted the purest possible oil. Well, just before Mr. Wrigley arrived to pick up a fresh supply of mint oil, Tobias discovered that his hired hand had inadvertently mixed the peppermint oil and the spearmint oil. Needless to say, Yoder was in a near panic. Mint was the family's major cash crop, and their survival depended on it. According to the story that I was told, as Wrigley sat in Mr. Yoder's living room enjoying a good cigar, when he heard about the mistake, Dan said Wrigley just leaned back in his chair and said, "Well, I guess we're going to have to come up with a new kind of gum." You can only imagine how relieved Tobias Yoder must have felt because of Wrigley's generosity. That generosity saved the Yoder family farm. And so it was in 1914 that Wrigley's Double Mint Gum was introduced to the world. And to quote the late radio news commentator Paul Harvey, "And now you know the rest of the story." Well, almost. Because it was the same Tobias Yoder in 1936 that would start Yoder Popcorn, which today is still a family-owned business that's run by one of his direct descendants, Russ Yoder, and his wife, Elise. Yoder Popcorn continues to be a thriving business with popcorn-related sales around the world. Well, back to the mint oil. It was an extremely valuable commodity during the Great Depression. So much so that many local mint farmers actually brought their mint oil into town, stored it in the bank vault. Tobias Yoder's great-great-granddaughter, Susie Frayne, told me that there were times when Tobias had over $1 million worth of mint oil stored in the basement of his farmhouse. Dan A. remembers the time when his father, Atlee, had 300 pounds stored in a barrel in their basement, and they were holding on to it. And a Mr. Schrock came by one day and offered him $15 a pound. Tobias said, Dad talked to Mom, and she wanted to hold on for more money, but Dad said, if we sell it now, we can make 5 years worth of farm payments. So Atlee took the deal and sold the mint oil. Within 2 or 3 weeks, the price had gone up to $25 a pound, and if he'd have waited, he could have paid off the whole family farm. I also remember Dan's smile when he talked about his dad, and he said Dad never felt bad because a few months later, the price of mint oil dropped, and other people lost the family farm. Well, today, Wrigley's Double Mint gum is still one of the most popular brands of chewing gum in the world. So the next time you open a package of Wrigley's Double Mint gum, remember, it all started in Topeka because somebody made a mistake and somebody else decided to turn that mistake into an opportunity. Join us again next time when we again take a look at another memorable moment in Topeka history.